All right, welcome everyone to the iNRS series. We are at Watkins Glen tonight for the Go Bowling at the Glen. This is round one of our playoffs, and this is our second race. Thanks for tuning in to the IWM Broadcast Network. I'm Rick Souza here with my co-broadcaster tonight, Ryan Pittman. And Ryan, this is a very interesting race tonight.
Yeah, Rick, we were kind of just sitting there kind of pondering over some strategies and what the drivers can kind of pull over this race. Of course, Watkins Glen, with it being a road course, it certainly allows a lot of difference in strategy and trying to position yourself. So I'll be kind of curious to see tonight who's able to pull off the winning strategy and how that strategy is going to play throughout the race.
Yeah, so we've got 28 drivers tonight. This is, again, as I said earlier, the second round of the first round of the second. I'll try that one more time. It's the second race of the first round, and our winner last week in Atlanta was Mr. Michael Whitley, and so he has punched his ticket into the playoffs. But now there's a little bit of a wrinkle. Here's a road course for these guys. They're usually oval drivers.
Yeah, and driving a stock car on a road course is honestly, for me, it's one of the most fun things on the sim because it does not handle like your traditional road course car. It is very loose. It takes forever to get the tires warmed up, and those first couple laps are going to be critical as far as making sure you keep it clean and making it through. Because like we mentioned, there's only one caution in this race. It's going to be coming on lap 15, and you just got to make it till then, really, in my personal opinion, because what happens after that is going to be on the table.
So right now we're watching qualifying, watching Jordan Wenzel. Jordan put up some good times during the practice session and continues to do that. He's got right now the fastest lap on the track with a 1 minute 11 seconds, 11.684. So he is right there, sub minute 12. Anything you can do that's under minute 12 is a great time here at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, Watkins Glen really one of those racetracks where you've got to utilize 100% of this racing surface, and not even a part of the racing surface, but sometimes out of the racing surface. As you see there, Jordan Wenzel getting right there on the curbs there off the last corner. Let's see down as he goes on the one, how much of this racing surface he's going to use, and we're going to see this all night long. Going out there, swinging wide, gets off those curves. You see how he got just a little bit loose there. That's going to get very loose every time you cross over that. Making sure you don't get crossed up and spin out is going to be critical.
Yeah, coming up through this part of the track, it makes it super challenging. Yeah, how much you bite off through turn one really affects the next 2 and 3 turns on this track.
This track is super momentum based. It's very fast as you would like to see in a road course race, but I mean, it just the amount of, like, there's not really a whole lot of corners here, and there's not really a whole lot to it, but it's just finesse and how you get through these corners. It's going to make your speed for sure.
All right, watching him wrap up. So right now they're running, this is the 7-turn configuration here for NASCAR that they run here. You've got the big, obviously turn number 1 is always our nail biting as we do for any restarts or when we start the race. Always a lot of drama there in turn 1. Then they run through turns 2, 3, and then 4 as they head towards the inner loop or the bus stop on the backstretch, and the big sweeping turn 5 as we race through our next one of the longest stretches into 6, and then obviously back on the front stretch through 7 across the start-finish line. We'll highlight those a little bit more during the race itself, and we'll ride on board with some drivers as they take their runs. We're jumping over to watch Alex Forget Berube, one of our Canadian drivers. See, a number of drivers have broken that 112 mark, both Jordan Wenzel and Jordan Booth, as well as Brendan Hayes.
Yeah, anything as close to that 110 mark that you can get is super impressive. Anything, as you just mentioned, anything below 112s is just on another level as far as your road course prowess. So being able to see who of these guys can actually hit those laps, and not only hit those laps and hit it once, you got to hit them for 45 laps that we'll see here. So not only how fast can you be one lap, but how consistent can you be over the long run and minimizing those mistakes.
We're watching Ron Fitting run in a very classic number 3 paint scheme.
As you see back through the gears, fourth, and I'm sure he's going to stop here on the track.
Yep, I think he's done. So qualifying is
completely maximizing your gear changes here.
Absolutely. So qualifying has completely wrapped up here at Watkins Glen. I think most of the drivers are done. We're just waiting for it to conclude. Enjoy the scenes of Watkins Glen. Now, what will happen here is that once qualifying is completely finished, probably another 2 or 3 minutes of qualifying time, the drivers will go into a 5-minute drivers meeting, and then we'll get this race underway. At that point, we'll bring you the grid, but let's talk a little bit about the playoffs. So right now, there are 16 drivers that have made the first cut. As we said earlier, Michael Whitley has won. He won last week at Atlanta and punched his ticket into the next round, which we will cut down from 16 down to 12. Now, as you can see, at 12 sits Eric Jeffers, and then within 7 points is Simon Magin in 13th, Martin Giroux within 8 points, 7 points, 6 points is in 14th, Jacob Musso within 12 points, and Brendan Hayes, he's right there within 13 points. Now, that being said, Brendan Hayes is going to qualify probably top 5. So a lot could happen after this race because, this is Watkins Glen and it's a road course. So lots of things change. Those drivers who are sometimes fabulous oval drivers may not be quite so good on a road course. So these road courses are wild cards.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking about like the points, of course, and one thing about road courses is even though it's not a traditional NASCAR track, and a lot of these drivers, as you mentioned, do not have road course racing in their blood per se. This is one of your biggest opportunities to capitalize because this is, like we mentioned, it's a rhythm racetrack. You can put in laps. Usually when I'd run a league race here, I'd have upwards of probably well over 100 laps going into the event, hours of practice, because whatever you do here, a lot in this race can be in your control. Now, that's going to change when we go next week because I believe next week's going to be Bristol, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, and at Bristol, we all know who that can go.
Yeah, and there's Bristol's one of those tracks where you're at the mercy of what's happening around you, and they've got 250 laps next week at Bristol. So
yeah, so anything you can do here to try to maximize points and trying to put yourself in a good position. Now, the best position was you saw Michael Whitley. He's not even going to worry about Bristol. He's not worried about Watkins Glen. He's going to go out here and try to have some fun and maybe try to keep some points away from some of the other guys. But just having that opportunity to have that power going into a race, knowing that if you're just familiar with it, what that can carry through into the next event is just so critical.
Well, and speaking of that, let's talk briefly about today's event and just what this race looks like. All right, so we've got that's surprising. So ambient air temperature is 78, but track temp is 104. So that is going to be super hot on track.
Yeah, and that's going to be everything that we kind of talked about. Now, traditionally on a road course race, now they've done a couple updates, but as far as traditionally, you're not really looking at changing tires traditionally on a road course race. Most of the times you'd run all the way through. Now, with a higher temp, it may make a difference. I don't really see it making much of a difference, but we'll just have to see if that starts to kind of eat away and chew away at some of the tire wear.
45 laps today. They do have a stage break, which we will throw a caution at right around at the end of lap 15. There are no quick repairs, so you basically you bought it, you own it. So we'll see what happens there. And the challenge on this track is going. If you do run off track, these the metal barriers that are there that keep your car on the track can do some major damage. It's not like running into a safer barrier in some other areas or other tracks.
Yeah, I guess some of the main parts, like of course turns 1, It's super wide. I mean, you can make it through there pretty well. You don't have to worry about a whole lot. I guess the only thing is if you get loose there and actually end up hitting the inside wall to the right. But I guess the biggest thing is outside of one, super wide. You can have an opportunity to try to get a run there. But after turn one, you're going into the S's, and that is a very tricky place to go through there too wide. And that's where the barriers can really close up on you through the S's and out of the exit of the S's.
And then through the bus stop, which has in fact, it was impacting the drivers so much in NASCAR. They actually made an adjustment to those turtles on the track itself. There was a great article that a number of the drivers are wearing these mouthpieces that actually record the amount of G-forces that the driver takes, and they were running them at Watkins Glen and found that they were taking significant amount of G-forces through the bus stop. And so it caused NASCAR to, for this coming race, to change the rumble strips at the bus stop.
Yeah, that's kind of the deal with these cars, and how durable these cars can be just means that they can, as you mentioned, they can take a beating. And where there's speed, as a driver, you really don't have an option. I can guarantee you those drivers, and I think it was Kyle Larson that was so adamant about it,
Yep.
that was saying, like, it's just taking a toll on your body going through there. And we mentioned the G-forces and what it does to your brain. But as a driver, you have no choice. If there's 0.2 there, if there's half a tenth there, a couple hundredths, you have to take it no matter what. So sometimes, as I believe Jordan Bianchi says, sometimes you have to save the drivers from themselves and going through there. So I do agree. I do kind of wish in a way that the cars were not quite as durable going through there, so that you didn't have an option to go through there every single lap and taking a toll on your body as it is. But it's just kind of the cars were dealt with this new next gen car for sure.
Yeah, they're super stiff, and unfortunately, the part that's not super stiff, that's soft and squishy, happens to be that driver.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've seen some of the cameras, especially on NASCAR. There's been some great like low profile cameras going through that bus stop. I'm watching those cars kind of hop and skip through that corner. It's just so impressive seeing making it through there.
We'll see a bit of that tonight. We'll take some of those shots, and we got some good camera angles set up, so should be interesting. We'll get some good shots. Also, I guess we can get to our keys to this race. We've got about a minute and 20 seconds left. Let's take a look at those. All right, so for our keys to tonight's race, well, the first one that Ryan and I talked about, it's qualifying.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, qualifying is such a critical part here. As we mentioned, we do get one caution, so that kind of makes a little bit of a difference. But Jordan Wenzel is up there at the top of the board, as you mentioned, with a very respectable lap time in the 1:11s there. So being able to get up front and kind of dictate this race is going to be super critical, and especially the problem is well, we'll get into it eventually in the keys to race as well. But being up there and dictating your lap time and not having to worry about the other chaos that be happening up in the back, because we're going to lock up tires, we're going to get kind of wide in certain areas, but being able to dictate your race and just control your pace is going to be super important, and qualifying up front is going to help you with that.
Second, beware of cold tires.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like we mentioned, as you're going to fire off into one, these tires are not going to be up to operational temperature. Now, there has been a little bit of an update that iRacing has talked about that, I guess it was actually more standing starts, but they've kind of talked about in the past where your tires are actually at somewhat of an optimal temperature as you bring yourself onto the grid, but they're not nearly going to be where they are going to be going into the pace. And your left front, your right front is going to be locking up in a hurry. And when that happens, you have no control of the car, whether you're going into a corner, and that can lead to major, major issues. So if you're up front, yeah, you're great, but you also got to be kind of keeping an eye on the rear for anything to happen out back.
And finally, pit strategy.
Yeah, Rick, we talked about it's a 45-lap race, and there's a caution on lap 15. Now, what you decide to do there, and I'm going to assume everybody's going to pit here on lap 15. We're going to have to see. But so you come in there, you say you take your tires, or you don't take your tires, as that would probably do. You're going to take your fuel, but that's not going to get you to the end of this race. I believe we're talking to some of the drivers, and we're getting about 21 to 22 laps, barely, on a tank of fuel. Now, you take 15 laps in, you have 30 left. Now, of course, accounting for pace laps, of course, after that, you're looking at about 28, 27 laps to go as you fire back off. That is not going to carry you to the end. So you're going to have to figure out when you're going to pit after that to try to get that extra 1 or 2 gallons of fuel.
All right, so that's the keys to tonight's race. The drivers are gridding up. Let's go ahead and bring up tonight's grid here at Watkins Glen. All right, on the pole, Jordan Wenzel with that time of 1:11.235. To his outside, Jordan Booth. Inside, Brendan Hayes and Corey Bunch. Alex Murphy is in 5th. Vernon Broadbeck in 6th. Martin Pinnell in 7th. Michael Whitley Jr. is in 8th. Alex Forget-Berube in 9th. And Simon Magid is in 10th.
In 11th, Eric Jeffers for Full Throttle Motorsports starts at 11th. And 12th, Martin Garreau. 13th on the field, Ty Bostic for Southern E Motorsports. And in the 14th position, Garrett Walden. 15th, Ron Fitting. And to his outside is going to be Matt Prusini. 17th, Jacob Mousseau. And to his outside, Tyler Lem. 19th, Matthew Robinson. And 20th, Joe Mousseau.
Oh, here we are. We are underway here. We'll get the rest of that grid as this develops.
Yeah, absolutely. We did not have any. We talked about these cold tires. There is no opportunity with as quick as they went through that pace lap. There's no opportunity.
Already the
for
50 is spinning.
Immediately.
Yeah, there's no cautions here. We saw the 50 go around. That is Martin Giroux in the back, and no contact, but that has relegated Martin from his starting position now all the way back in last place in 25th.
Yeah, we had those 2 opportunities we talked about right there off the start. Your cold tires locking up into one. And then the other thing we talked about through the S's, we also saw an incident and the bus stop as well, as we see here as the car goes off.
Yeah, the bus stop has already claimed a victim there. That was Jordan Booth, unfortunately. Jordan's back on track, but he went from 1st to 14th by that mistake in the bus stop.
Yeah, this is what we've kind of talked about. The cold tires are not up to temperature, and these cars are not going to be driving optimally. How hard you're going to drive here is really a catch-22 on what side of aggression versus patience you want to play. Because like you mentioned, we only have 1 caution, no fast repairs. A mistake here early in the race can dictate your championship hopes.
Yeah, we're not so much worried about aerodynamics, but we are worried about integrity. And a good slam into the wall will damage these toe links. They've hardened them up, they've fixed them, but they're not that good.
Yeah, for sure. We were talking about aerodynamics. Now, Watkins Glen is a very fast racetrack, but like you mentioned, it's probably not going to be a whole lot of dictation as far as your speed, but like you mentioned, the toe links, everything you're handling can change, and that's just going to affect your car on the long run for sure. Making sure you keep your car in one piece is going to be so critical throughout this race.
You can see Jordan Booth getting that car completely sideways as he went through the bus stop. We were talking about he hit those turtles, and that just trashes the car.
That is about as sideways as it comes without wrecking the race car. How impressive, as we see another car going super wide out of the carousel.
All right, we're on lap 2 here at Watkins Glen. Jordan Wenzel continues to lead.
Yeah, if I was these top 3 or 4 drivers here, I would probably just look at trying to keep it easy, keep your car underneath you, keep the tires on contact with the racetrack as they go down into turn number 1 and through the S's. Because honestly, if you're in that top 3 or 4, I like your position. You're pulling away from the guys 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th on back. So just kind of taking it easy, making sure you make it through this race. It is a long race. It's only 45 laps. But really, it is still a long race. We've got a long way to go here. And fighting, that's later on.
We're keeping an eye on these drivers as they are chewing through this course. Again, a very technical, as Ryan indicated, a rhythm track. You have to know your marks, hit your marks each and every time, because if you don't, you are in big trouble.
Yeah, we kind of talked about as well, trying to take your car outside the racetracks. You see some cars taking it nice and tidy out of the carousel and out of turn 1. Then we see others going way wide. And while that is better for time, it's also 26. Very dangerous, as we see here. We were just talking about those seams and how you cross the seams in the rumble strips, how that can completely upset your car. And I think that's what we just saw from the car number 26.
Yeah, that's Eddie Musso Jr. He just got a bit unsettled and wind up dropping 4 or 5 positions, just getting out of shape. Back up front, Jordan Wenzel is continuing to chew through this track. He's got Brandon Hayes on his tail. As we said earlier, looking at the points, Brendan Hayes needs a good finish. He needs a great finish today.
Yeah, one of the drivers that, as you mentioned, is probably looking at the outside looking in as far as the points battles. Let's see if I can go ahead and try to find some of that points battle. As you mentioned, Brendan Hayes, 16th in points, 2015 points. So, yeah, he is one of the drivers for sure. They could absolutely capitalize from this race and trying to go forward. He's probably not going to be one of those guys that's going to be content looking for second.
Nope, absolutely. He wants any stage points he can get, getting up front, taking 8, 9, 10 points for that stage break. That's huge. Plus, best he can finish. Those are great points. Let's go on board with that. Let's go on board with Brendan Hayes as he navigates his way around this track.
And I'm kind of curious to see what kind of gears they select going down through here. And I was kind of curious, especially going into 1. Now you can't go all the way down to first gear going into 1 if you're really struggling for it, but you got to make sure that the RPM ranges are just perfect on your blips, because that car can get squirrely if you shift down too soon. Back through the bus stop as well, we'll probably see down to second or third gear. As you see, third, not quite down to second. Just rolling through the bus stop, being kind of easy on your throttle. And of course, as you go through the carousel, just kind of trail braking just a little bit on entry, letting the car settle, and then easy on throttle as you try to straighten out and off the corner here, across the ribs and down into the finish of your lap.
Yeah, this corner tends to get a lot of folks out of shape as they're setting themselves up for the 7th corner. As you come back towards the start-finish line, you just tag the wall.
Very, very easy to do, as you mentioned. How hard is he willing to go here? Is he really willing to push the cars? We see again going down into turn 1. Is he going to cross those ribs like you've seen him do before? He is. It can step out on you very, very easily now going through the S's once again. Barely on the throttle, letting the car kind of drift to the right and easily back to the left. Just trying to maximize your corner and trying to make it as straight as possible through those S's.
Back up through 5th gear and heading into the bus stop.
Bus stop is kind of a tricky part of the track as well. So much time can be gained there. I've oftentimes found myself with iRacing, and they have this reset system where you can kind of take a portion of the racetrack over and over again. And the bus stop always seems to be one of those portions of the track where you can either nail it or you can go way off as a 75 or to 77, as you mentioned.
That's Corey Bunch.
Impacts that hard barrier, and that is going to be a fatal night for the number 77 car.
Yep, I think he's toast.
Yeah, you mentioned no safer barriers, no faster pairs, and
no luck. Yep, so I think the 77 is done for the night with a lot of damage after that wreck.
Yeah, and Corey Bunch was 3rd on the board for your points. Now, he is a good portion up from everybody else, 2,059 points. Looking back at your cut line at 228 to be in at the current moment. Now, I'm not sure where Eric Jeffers and Ty Bostic are running, but that is very, very, could be fatal going into Bristol. Like, so much of a cushion going into tonight, and to finish with only 7 laps in is certainly fatal. Could be, for sure, for Eric Bunch. Corey Bunch.
He's headed towards the pits. See just what damage can be repaired. I'm not sure. There's a lot of smoke pouring out of that number 77 Ford at this time. So, all right, back up front with Jordan Wenzel, who continues to lead this race. Brandon Hayes is in 2nd. We'll bring up our current tower. See there? Across the crawl, you will see different colors. The red indicates a driver who is a playoff driver, and in the top of the screen crawl, you will see a driver in yellow. That will be Michael Whitley. He has punched his ticket into the playoffs.
Yeah, the number 81 machine looking like it is absolutely on rails, not so much as a misstep on that number 81 car. I think we saw it get loose once through the bus stop, and then after that, it has been golden for that number 81 machine.
Dropping back
In
the
fact,
field, we'll go ahead.
I was going to say, in fact, currently holds the best lap on the track with a 1:11.759, comparable to qualifying laps here every single lap.
That's pretty impressive. Looking back through to Michael Whitley, our driver who has already won last week in Atlanta. He's in that Krispy Kreme number 94.
It'd make me hungry, Rip.
Right?
I hadn't had a Krispy Kreme donut in I don't know how long. That is a beautiful, beautiful paint scheme of that number.
Yep. Yep.
94, right?
Great job. Yep.
Yep. And you know, Watkins Glen is one of those racetracks. It's like it's I can't say it's a road course that has a tremendous amount of character, but there's just something about this racetrack and what they do for the campers there. It's always kind of it's always known for their camping and going in there and just enjoying the whole weekend. And I haven't been to a whole lot of road courses. Probably the closest one to me is probably VIR in Virginia. And I've went to a road course once at that racetrack for a IMSA race. But there's just something special about sitting there in the infield and camping. And Watkins Glen is well known for their camping and experience of the full weekend. And I'd like to do that just once at some point. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's just there are a handful of classic tracks, especially on the road courses side, that host not only a NASCAR event but really are known for all other IMSA races and other series. You know, Watkins Glen comes to mind, Sonoma comes to mind. Those are just amazing road courses here in the States.
And hey, how about we talk about another road course that's going to be up on the not the Cup schedule nor the Xfinity schedule in 2025, but on the truck schedule. They are making a return, or it may be an inaugural event. I assume it's probably an inaugural event at Lime Rock Park in 2025.
Oh, very cool.
How awesome is that? I'm very much looking for. I was almost tempted to go to that. It's going to be a drive if I do decide, but that is really, as we see some tire lockup from the number 1 machine.
Yep, that's Matthew Robinson. Super easy to do, and unfortunately that'll affect you going forward. You put heat and you put some flat spots on those tires, he will feel that for a while.
Yeah, it could. The biggest things that I kind of like to do is, especially in practice, what I'll do is when I go into a corner and I feel like one of the tires is locking up, I'll actually exit the vehicle and take a look and see what tire it is locking up. And most of the time it is the front tires, and if that's the case, I'll usually go in the car and bump that brake bias back just a little bit until all 4 tires are locking up at about the same point, so that you get equal braking into the corner. Now, of course, if you go too far in the rear brakes, then that can lead to further issues, but it also helps you trail brake into corners a little bit more as you get more towards the rear on the brake bias.
All right, back up front with Jordan Wenzel. He continues to lead here.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the lap times, so Jordan Wenzel currently at the lead. Let's look at some of these last lap times. Brendan Hayes, now of course Jordan Wenzel, his last lap time was a 12.870. Brendan Hayes, a 1:12.442, 4/10 quicker. Now the guy behind him, Alex Murphy, 1:12.360, 5/10 quicker. The guy behind him, Vernon Broadbeck, 13.354. All these drivers behind him, or actually, sorry, not 13. But Simon Madjian, a 1:12.855. So all these drivers are starting to kind of get a feel for it. We're kind of starting to see a battle for the lead potentially starting to heat up, especially from Brendan Hayes, as he's continuously over the last couple laps actually had quicker lap times from the leader.
Yeah, we've just brought up on the tower. These are the last lap times. And definitely Brendan Hayes has made up a significant amount of time that time by, but Jordan Wenzel took it back.
Yeah,
nearly half a second.
He might have seen that gap. We kind of talked about your discipline and only running just as hard as you need to go. He might have been running kind of easy, saw that lap time clicking from behind him. He's like, okay, now I'll pick up the pace a little bit more.
Because, you know, part of what these guys are doing, you've got to balance fuel and you've got to balance tires. We are coming up. This is the coming towards about 3/4 of the way through lap 12. And again, as we mentioned at the beginning, at lap 15, at the end of 15, there will have a full course caution stage break.
You know, of course, these drivers, each and every one of them are going to fill up their tank all the way to full. So any kind of fuel that you can save here, again, if you have a 2-3 second lead, you can kind of afford to bleed that just a little bit and maybe try to save just a little bit of fuel. And of course, the less fuel you have to fill up, the less time you're on pit road.
I think my calculation was a little off. I believe that they have 60% fuel. So let me recalculate that number. So that's 25 laps. That probably changes your calculations a little bit.
That's still going to put them maybe just a little short, as you mentioned, with pace laps. And of course, they're going to burn a little bit of fuel in pace laps. But even still, 45 lap race, 15 laps to the stage. You have 30 laps remaining. Of course, as you mentioned, pace laps as well. You're still looking at 28, 27, and 2 laps here. This track is what, 2.5 miles? I can't remember how long, but
2.45 miles.
That is a long way around to try to save even a lap of fuel. It'll be tough.
Interesting enough, Michael Whitley Jr. just came in, took fuel only.
Interesting.
That put him back in 21st.
So it makes you wonder at the end of the stage if he's going to try to stay out here, which I would imagine could be the case.
Yeah. Knowing he's going to stop one more time.
Now, he said that was Michael Whitley Jr., so he's the guy that's already gotten a win here. So he's not looking for stage points. You know, he's good and well at sitting in the back, and that's going to cycle him back up to the front, which could be a big gain for him at the end of this. I think that's a really smart move. Going for trophies.
Going for trophies. There you go. All right, back up front, lap 14. We'll stay with our leader, Jordan Wenzel. Oh, Alex Forget Barubi. Let's go quickly to Alex. Looks like he may have spun. And if he did, it's right at the time you hate to see it. Right there.
Just crosses the curbs. Yep. It's either crossing that curb at the wrong. Oh,
close.
Right in the middle of the racetrack.
Jeez.
But as you mentioned, it could either be across those seams or it could potentially be a little bit too far in the rear brake bias, but it was probably just upsetting the car getting over those curbs like he did into one. Or it could be trying to go down to first gear. I don't know.
All right, we're starting lap 15 here. Jordan Wenzel working his way around a lap car. That is Eddie Musso Jr. at 26.
Yeah, just look how precise and clean and tidy this number 81 car was going through the S's. And I'm sure we'll see the same thing going through the bus stop, trying to get just as perfectly close to that wall there. I think that was almost a perfect camera shot. Getting right there close to the wall, keeping it right tidy to it. Look at that, just perfectly through there. Eating every bit of that racetrack up in the corners. As we'll probably expect to see the, as we would call it, the green and white checker flag here, I would assume, for your stage break at the end of this lap.
Yeah, I think unless they put it in as a stage break, it may just come out as a competition caution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think iRacing has a generated green and white checker flag quite yet. Maybe they'll implement that in the future. That'd be kind of cool if you could actually put in specific lap times to build into your racing. That'd be kind of cool.
All right, so that's our stage break. And I think we'll probably, what's on the board to be a top 10, Wenzel, Hayes, Murphy, Booth, Broadbeck, Magin, Pinnell, Robinson, Walden, and Jeffers. Some good stage points for Brandon Hayes. And I expect we'll see this field make their way down onto pit road. Or not.
Yes, I'm Magin, who finished 6th in that first little wave there. He was just on the outside of the points battle here going into the night in 13th. So that is going to be a great opportunity for him to capitalize on a few stage points as well. So here's the question, Rick. We talked about it. 15 laps in. Well, now 17. Tires, no tires. I guess here, because you're turning right, maybe it would be left side tires if you were to take 2 tires. What are you thinking here?
I'm thinking if I'm up in front and I'm not going to give away position, I'm taking left side tires, full tank of fuel.
Okay. Because, yeah, of course, the amount of time you're going to be spending on pit road for fuel with these single lug nut cars, yeah, you're going to have those tires strapped on and ready by the time the tank is even full. The only question here is, as we kind of mentioned, right now, the tires, while they may be quite scuffed, they're 15 laps in, they're also up to temperature. Now, we're going to lose a little bit of temperature under pacing and what all, but they're still going to be a little bit more optimal. We're going to use that word a lot here. A little bit more optimal as compared to a cold tire. So if you do decide to come in and grab 2 tires or 4 tires, it is going to be your responsibility to try to get those tires as high up to temp under these pace laps before you go green as you possibly can to try to save your car from locking up into one.
All right, the Watkins Glen Porsche pace car is taking the drivers down, about to enter pit road for those who are going to pit. Couple turns and we'll see them make a decision.
And how about some of the drivers that we're going to have in the Cup Series back at Watkins Glen? One specifically, I believe Juan Pablo Montoya, if I recall correctly, is going to be back at the Watkins Glen going for another one. So that'll be interesting to see on the Cup side on Sunday for sure. Here we go, Rick. Decisions.
We'll stay with Jordan Wenzel, our leader, see what choices he makes as he leads this field. Not all of the field has chosen to pit. Obviously, those drivers who are a lap down have to stay out. They'll come down next time by.
I think that driver we talked about before that pit early, Michael Whitley Jr., is going to stay out on the racetrack and is going to claim that first position coming back to green.
Smart move.
I do not see tires going up, Rick.
Nope.
Maybe just fuel only here for your leaders. I like the call.
Couple cars back. Deeper in the field, took tires. But for the most part, all fuel coming out your top 12. Matthew Robinson, first driver, Garrett Walden, they both took 4 tires. Same with Nick Alves, Martin Giroux, Jacob Musso, and the rest of the field.
Now, here's another interesting thing, Rick, is we didn't see the pit stop for the number 94 machine. But there is a possibility now, it would only be probably about 10 laps that he had on his tires, but if he had pit there, grabbed a set of tires, as the other guys do not plan on using theirs tonight, and grabs those set of tires, kind of takes it easy, he's going to cycle back up to the front, but he's going to have 10 lap pressure tires, and now that he's ran some laps, they are going to be back up to temperature. So that is interesting as well. So you may be having some fresher tires and be at the same temperature as all the other guys as well.
Should be very interesting. So the fun part about this, obviously, there will be a restart. We'll see how this all shakes out with Michael Whitley, the 26 of Eddie Musso Jr. will get the wave around when the lights go off on top of our pace car. And that'll be a challenge for him to get back to the tail end of the field before we go back to green. unlike an oval
Yeah.
track.
Unlike Bristol next week, for sure.
I am receiving word that Corey Bunch is out there, so he is making time on the track.
We see some of these. Okay, I was trying to make sure
Yep.
these guys are coming in, but you just mentioned that they were a lap down, so now they're a little bit.
Yep,
Gotcha.
the 67 of Coriolis and the 26 of Eddie Musso Jr. are on pit road. And
Gotcha. I
they're
didn't know if
looks
it was
like
some of
they
those
are
guys.
changing tires.
Ah, good move. Yeah, I didn't know if it was some of those guys trying to top off on fuel. I was like, that could be kind of interesting, but no, it was different. So, yeah, now is the question, Rick, of when do these guys decide to top off on fuel? Now, one thing that I've always kind of tried to do is you're obviously going to run slower in traffic because you could get back behind a car that is slower than you, and as hard as it is to pass at times, you're going to be stuck behind that car. What I would probably try to do here is almost pit as soon as your window opens up to make it to the end. Because right now you're in traffic. If you pit now or as soon as your window opens, that can offset you to where when you come back onto pit road or on the racetrack, you're in clean air and you can run the lap times that you want without having to worry about guys around you. Now that's what I would probably look at doing, but I'll be kind of curious to see what these guys do.
Yeah, and there's a good chance that they may not need fuel with 26 laps, potentially 25 in the tank. That puts them at 44 laps. So maybe a little bit of fuel saving. Maybe these caution laps here will save a little bit, enough fuel that they can be able to make it around without having to come back in, which makes that position on track that much more important.
Yeah, real quick, you may have a few seconds to look at it here. Are you able to go into in-car on one of these up front cars?
Yeah, but we won't see their fuel, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, I didn't know if they had fifth gear engine off.
Yeah, we could definitely jump into Michael Whitley.
4,500 on the tack.
Yeah, he's in second gear. Let's look at Jordan Wenzel. Same thing.
Okay.
He's just dropping down to first gear.
Interesting. Okay. Well, maybe they're better on fuel as we might think here.
Yeah.
Unless it's showing different. Of course, iRacing doesn't always seem to show it, but we're getting ready to go green here, Rick. We'll find out.
Michael Whitley is our control car. He's got this race in his hands on this restart. And we are back to green here at Watkins Glen. Go bowling at the Glen for the iNRS Racing Series. Here's the nail biter. Jordan Wenzel jumps out in front. As you see, all these drivers go wide.
Oof. An excellent job by all the drivers. It did get a little bit hairy in the back, but it looks like they all came out of it. Now here's the second question. Going down through all the S's. Now this is very tight going through here. If anything happens, anything at all, that whole racetrack could be blocked up in a second.
Yep, we're 2 and 3 wide in the back at spots as these drivers work their way through the bus stop. Nice job by Jordan Wenzel, Michael Whitley, Brendan Hayes, just hitting all their marks.
Yeah, really quite impressive from everybody through the racetrack. I really thought that maybe we see a few more hairy moments as I think a couple more cars are starting to venture a little bit wider through some of those corners, trying to pick up the pace. First half of the race is complete. We're getting back into the latter half now. It is time to go.
Just picking on back, looking through some other drivers further on back in the field. Tyro Lem, Tony Japs here back at the tail of the field. You're seeing a lot of, we're neat and tidy up in front, but as these drivers are towards the back of the field, they're just doing everything they can to get through this track.
Yeah, for sure. Looking at some of these cars, and I believe the 99, I think there might have been a 27 in there somewhere, had some damage on the front end, has gotten into some scuffles at some point or another throughout this race. And as you mentioned, that could certainly affect the handling of your race car.
Watching the 50 of Martin Giroux. He's right now running in 13th position. But, he's in a lot of traffic. There's Nick Alves in the 13, right to his outside.
Now, this is one of those portions of the racetrack where if you're brave and if you can attempt to pass in the bus stop, not typically a spot that I would usually try to go to. Now, I'm not a very big road course racer, but, some of the main points to try
24.
to attempt.
That's Matt Pericini going around in the 24.
At a very precarious portion of the racetrack. I think we actually saw Jeff Gordon getting into an incident there in, I believe, 2008, 2010 almost.
Yeah,
That's gonna exact.
Right. That's just going to put him towards the tail end of the field. You just can't. Again, you've got no opportunity for fixing your car if something goes wrong. So you've got to be super cautious about throwing it in reverse and just backing up. You can't just do that in traffic.
Yeah, and the thing is now we already mentioned our stage break is over. It is now clean and green. Well, I can't say clean per se, but green to the end. So you make a mistake there, and really you're a little SOL for the rest of the race. It's all up to you to try to make up those positions. No guarantee of a caution.
Looking at Ty Bostic in that Memorial 911 paint scheme. Ty is currently running in 10th.
We were talking about the bus stop and trying to make a pass there. I think we almost saw an attempt at one as we see a little bit of brake lockup up ahead. But I was wondering if they're going to try to make that stick and try to go through there too wide. That would have been very hairy for those two drivers.
Good moves by the 22 of Ty Bostic as he sits in 10th. Back up front with the 94 car of Michael Whitley sitting in 4th position. He's got the 30 of Alex Murphy on his tail, and he's looking at the Jordan Booth in the 41. Jordan had that incident at the beginning of the race and wound up deep in the pack, but has worked his way back up, partly through that pit strategy, but more importantly, just good, solid racing. Now he's sitting back in 3rd.
Yeah, 45-lap race already through. Most of it 23 laps to go, just short of halfway. Right there at about halfway.
See both of those 40 XLI drivers in those purple paint schemes, the 40 of Brendan Hayes and the 41 of Jordan Booth, nipping at the, maybe not nipping, but darn close to Jordan Wenzel, trying to track him down.
Yeah, looking at some of the lap times up front once again. There is one car that's a little bit quicker than last lap. 1:11.903 is your leader of Jordan Wenzel. There was a 1:11.874 from Jordan Booth, as you mentioned earlier, another very fast competitor here. Outside of that, I'm seeing a lot of 113s, 114s, and on back.
Martin Giroux has spun. Unfortunately, it's putting it back. He was up in around 12th, 13th, and now he's in 22nd. One mistake can spin you around.
Yeah, Martin was one of those drivers once again sitting in 14th on your point standings, 2,019 points on the season going into round 1. Really did not need a rough night here at Watkins Glen. We talked about the opportunities you can have here. So much more is in your control at a racetrack like this. And if you lose it on your own, well, that's that's a tough thing to swallow. Not really a whole lot of other things you can put on the blame.
It is so easy to make a mistake on a road course.
100%. There's been times when, again, league racing, when we go to a road course, like I said, I put 120 laps in. Personally, I remember we went to Chicago the first time, and I put in, gosh, I don't know how many laps in. Guess what? Lap 1, locked up the left front, got into the tire barrier, and my night was done. All those laps and practice and repetition, just can't say all for naught, but just didn't work out.
Day, yeah.
Yep, lap 1. It's just sometimes, and it was 100% my fault. I just got in there and locked up the tire just a little bit. But sometimes it's just like that in racing, for sure.
We pop back and take a look. You see Corey Budge. He's still out there. Guessing he got some repairs made while he's in, but he's still out there. Not running. He's definitely off the pace, but doing his best to work his way around this track.
Yeah, the best thing about Watkins Glen is, as we mentioned, it is quite a sizable racetrack and, of course, a road course. You have a little bit more time to try to get some of those repairs done. Unlike, again, we talk about next week, Bristol. You're going to have virtually no time to get any repairs done on that race car if you make a mistake here. At least under caution, you have a good probably minute and a half to 2 minutes, you know, lap times of 1:12 under pacing is going to be a lot slower. So you have actually a reasonable amount of time under caution to try to get those repairs done on that race car. Of course, now, not so much. What you got is what you get.
Yeah, talking about Bristol, you're seeing laps being turned there, 14 or so seconds.
Yeah.
I've got Ty Bostic coming down onto pit road. Not sure why.
I can't see there being any kind of blight. Well, we see another car. This could be your strategy, Rick, where we talked about, can these drivers make it all the way? Some of these guys might not be able to make it. Yeah, and we mentioned that the lap times we mentioned, I was thinking it was going to be around 20, 21 laps on a tank of fuel. That's going to be right in the window that we are at. So this could be your strategy here. As soon as you can make it to pit road, take it.
Man, that's Ty Bostic. That was a 6-second stop. That's fuel only, and he's back on course.
Just a splash of fuel is all you need. A couple gallons, if that. And this is kind of what I talked about. Ty Bostic, once again, he came down pit road. Everybody kind of flushed out in front of him. Now he has wide open track. He can run the lap times he wants, unhindered by anybody else on the racetrack.
Quickly looking at Simon Magin. He is up 5 spots, currently in 5th. Vernon Broadback is also on pit road, as well as Alex Bourget-Berube. Those guys are, looks like they're on pit road.
Now, on the flip side of that, Rick, if you're the leader, you may actually, because again, you have clean air out in front of you like Jordan Wenzel, he may be apt to kind of stay out there for just a little bit longer. His tires are, again, up to optimal temperature. He's been making laps, feels comfortable. You're within your rhythm. Try to keep that rhythm and pace for as long as you can until you have to take fuel. Or if, let's say, oftentimes you'll kind of run for as long as you have clean track out in front of you. But if he gets to the back end of a lap traffic or another car out in front of him that's a lap down, he may take that opportunity to be, hey, I don't want to try to worry about getting by this guy. I'm going to go ahead and take this opportunity the next lap in, pit, and then you're back on the same cycle.
Yeah,
so
he's
got
kind
of strategy.
Yeah, he's got about almost a 4-second gap over Brendan Hayes, Jordan Wenzel, but getting on pit road, even just getting a splash of fuel and getting off is going to cost you 40 seconds.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think there's any kind of way that, again, we're probably only a few laps shy. Like you said, you're only taking maybe a gallon of fuel. But if he's in such a good rhythm, his lap times are so naturally quick, he may, again, it would be tough, but he may be able to just start short shifting a little bit, trying to go to 5th gear as much as you can, or a gear up as much as you can. And maybe you can save just a little bit of fuel as you have a little bit of money in the bank, or a little bit of time, lap time in the bank. You know, if you're that much consistently quicker, it could be possible that he could go to the end here. I kind of doubt it, but it'll be kind of interesting to see from the 81.
A couple drivers on pit road, the 25 of Jacob Musso, Matt Persini. We're keeping our eye on the 81, as well as the 40 and the 41. Going back a little farther in the field, you see there's a battle right here between the 43 of Garrett Walton. He's got Matthew Robinson. Matthew Robinson, he is up 11 spots. He started 19th and has now worked his way up to 8th.
Yeah, very impressive. We kind of talked about how important qualifying is, while also just staying out of incidents and making it to the end, making sure you keep your car in one piece. Well, you're going to gain some points naturally just doing that. So a very impressive drive by Matthew Robinson, as you stated.
Another driver who has moved up pretty big in qualifying is Nick Alves in the 13. Nick started in 23rd, and has now made his way up to 11th.
Yeah, and I'm trying to take an eye on some of the lap times here to try to see if there's any kind of difference in the leaders' laps, to see if at all. Just kind of backed his pace down, like we mentioned, to maybe try to save a little bit of time, but I don't really see a whole lot. We had, last lap was a 112.679, which is slower than the one previous, a 112.420. And then the one before that, 112.380. So every lap, the last couple, every lap before it's backed off just a little bit more and a little bit more over the last couple laps for sure. So I'm kind of curious to see what this strategy could be from Jordan Wenzel. I mean, only a few laps before he was hitting 112s flat consistently. Now this last lap around a 112.679. So he could be on that strategy, Rick. It'll be kind of curious to see.
Yeah, with 16 laps here to go, he continues to dominate right now with just about a 4-second lead over second place Brendan Hayes and third place Jordan Booth.
Yeah, I'm trying to go on the cockpit view of this race car, the number 81, just to see if there's any kind of possibility that he may be doing a little bit of short shifting here.
There's
I don't
shot,
necessarily.
I don't think so, Ryan. I think he's letting it all hang out still.
Yeah, hitting about 8,500, 8,700. Yeah, he may be going. I'm just kind of curious to see when he's going to come down and pit. Now he's going to be getting some lap traffic, as you mentioned, out in front of him. So how he's going to navigate through this lap traffic could be interesting for sure. If he's going to take that opportunity to say, hey, I don't really want to deal with trying to figure out a way around you. I'm going to go ahead and take my pit stop now. We'll see.
I think he short shifted a little bit through the S's there. Wound up in fourth gear pretty quick. But where he needs the control, where he needs that downshift to maintain the control of the car, and more importantly, when you make that shift, it shifts the weight and the balance of the car and leverages that engine momentum. He's not afraid to do that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we saw through the bus stop there is he was going through third gear all the way into the entry of it, and then right there at about like when he starts to turn left for the second half of the bus stop, he hits second, which kind of kicks the rear end out just a little bit to help finish the rotation of that race car through the back half of the bus stop. Shifting and downshifting is kind of like we saw some drivers, Shane Van Gisbergen, how he's been able to just maximize his braking and how he's able to do it and utilize the clutch and the shifting to try to get the very absolute most out of that race car. It's been just an awesome thing to watch, and the just mastery of short track racing and the arts that is road course racing, of course. We saw in that shot there as well the elevation change that we have here at Watkins Glen. Not flat by any means.
Nope, not at all. Couple of interesting camera shots from our Gopher cams. Jordan Wenzel has found himself with a couple of lap cars. That's Eddie Musso, I think, the 28. That's Joe Musso, the 28 in front of him, and Tony Japs. These guys are at the tail end of the lead lap.
That's what we said, Rick. We were talking about it. He sees all this lap traffic ahead of him. He's like, I don't want to go through that. I'm going to pit now. This is a strategy we talked about, right on the dot. Ran it for as long as he had clean air and clean track out in front of him. So now, where is this going to cycle our leaders out back?
Yeah, so you've got, right now he's already down to 7th as he works his way up to the first pit stall. Be a fuel-only stop here for Jordan Wenzel, and he's back out 6 seconds.
And one of those things that I've always had to try to find discipline in, especially on a road course where, again, we don't have the privilege of cautions. If you get a pit road speeding penalty here, that is absolutely fatal for your race, because you are down, I think it's like, a 30-second penalty under green sitting in the pits.
Yeah.
So as tempted as you are to try to sail that thing onto pit road and try to get down through the gears and get down to pit road speed, I've just had to tell myself, hey, losing 1 or 2 seconds here trying to get on pit road or trying to get as much out of the RPMs down pit road, it's just not worth it. So trying to discipline yourself on pit road is really one of the hardest things as well. See Brendan Hayes on pit road.
And Alex Murphy also on pit road. That leaves Jordan Booth out in front. Simon Madgen moves up, but we'll expect to see all those drivers on pit road for last bit of fuel. And you don't want to gamble too much here. If you're empty, this is a long way to go if you're run out of fuel.
Yeah, fortunately, iRacing does a pretty decent job at fuel calculations. It's not like in real life where they really don't know how much fuel you have in a race car. You do kind of have that little ticker that is continuously going down as you make laps. You can kind of adjust. If you see that you're short, again, you can kind of start short shifting. One thing that you'll see, some of the drivers doing like IMSA, as we see some stuff happening right there in front of our leaders. We saw some smoke. Heard some choice words in the voice comms. But yeah, one of the things we'll kind of see in like IMSA and stuff to try to save some fuel is when you get, like especially down the long straightaways on the front stretch, you'll actually see them clutch in about 100 yards before your braking zone, because if you're full throttle there, you're only gaining maybe 1 or 2 mile an hour once you kind of hit that higher RPM range, versus clutch in where you're not nearly at that high RPM range. You can save a lot of fuel in the back end of that long straightaway just by clutching in just a little bit before your braking zone.
Jordan Booth on pit road. You saw him lock up those tires. You need to get down to pit road speed. Again, the last thing you want is a speeding penalty on this track.
And
Michael
who was
Whitley
that, Eddie
Jr.
Musto?
That was Jordan Booth. Also on pit road, Michael Whitley Jr., Garrett Walden, and Eric Jeffers.
So I was looking back to see how many people are out here retired. I do see that one meatball from Eddie Musso, who I think we saw get caught up in something a little bit earlier as well. So one car on pit road with a meatball for sure.
Watching Simon Madgen, who has now inherited first place in the 46. He's got the 50 of Martin Giroux. Martin is the last car on the lead lap. But I suspect we will see a number of these drivers this time by drop in with just 11 laps to go. Get a little splash of fuel and head back out. And you see the 46 making his way onto pit road. Looking back to the 20 of Martin Pinnell. Also, in fact, I'm assuming he is coming in now. No, he continues on. He is the only car who has not pitted in this next round cycle.
Interesting.
Now, what that means is that has cycled back to Jordan Wenzel. He is currently shown in second to Martin Pinnell.
Yeah, 3.7 seconds back, so not nearly enough if that number 20 car was even kind of thinking about trying to save fuel. There's no way you're going to save enough for only a 3.5 second gap, now down to 3.25 seconds back down to the 81 for sure.
And looking back at the timing, I think Jordan Wenzel has almost a 5-second gap over second place, well, third place now, Jordan Booth. So that all has worked out very successfully for the 81 Chevrolet of Jordan Wenzel.
Yeah, a big gap like that really gives you an opportunity, as we see the number 20 machine finally making his way down on the pit road. But back to the 81 once again, you kind of established that lead here, and everybody's kind of gone through their pit cycle, so now he has a good idea. This is what I have. This is officially the lead that I have, and I can kind of gauge how hard I run this car or how I make my way through traffic. I can kind of have some time in the bank, per se, to be a little bit more patient, be a little bit more precise about how you make your way around this racetrack and how you make your way around lap traffic.
Yeah, with nearly just 8.5 laps left to finish, Jordan Wenzel has got a commanding lead over 5 seconds over second place Jordan Booth and third place Brendan Hayes.
See, I think there might be a battle for around fourth or so as well.
You're correct.
Yeah, we see a battle between the 30.
That's Alex Murphy and the 46. I'm sorry, the 40 of Brendan Hayes.
That might be your closest battle on the racetrack here, at least within the top 10 as well. Looks like it might be getting a little bit more spread out here. There was a time there they were about to around 0.2 of a second off each other.
Let's jump back to Ty Bostic and Eric Jeffers. They're trying to battle. That's 10th and 11th. Not much there. Alex Forget Berube working his way. He's got Nick Alves behind him. Tight battle here with the 50 of Martin Giraud. He's got that's the 42 of Tony Japs right there. That's a battle for 17th. So you're right. There's not a lot of door handle to door handle racing left here at Watkins Glen. We're kind of spread out.
Still kind of the art that we kind of talked about today's road course racing, and it's just trying to play that strategy. And it's more of a chess game, versus the hard beating battle that is generally NASCAR racing. It's kind of more of a more methodical way of racing, I guess you could say.
Yep, as you make your way through those 7 corners, hitting all of your marks, paying attention. It doesn't take much. You can see that the 30 of Alex Murphy is not far off the bumper of the 40 of Brendan Hayes. It does not take much to make a slight mistake that will completely ruin or improve your line.
Oh yeah, we talked about how easy it is. Now the brakes and everything have kind of gotten up to temperature and whatever, so you're not going to quite see the brake lockup that you might see earlier on in the race. But yeah, just one slight lockup into one or going into the bus stop, getting offline just a little bit can really allow an opportunity, especially like we're talking about. We're only talking about 0.3 of a second, half a tenth of a second, or half a second here in some places. One small mistake and they're there. So we're looking at this battle here with the 40 and the 30 as well. It does not take much to allow an opportunity for that guy behind you. You see a car way wide up front.
Yep.
Using every bit of clearance.
That 30 is doing everything he can to narrow that gap between himself and Brendan Hayes and battle for that. That's a podium finish if he can get by the 40.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see how he gets down to the 1 here. He might have a decent shot at and off. Yep, there he goes. At least nicking the nose there. And he kind of did like what sometimes I'll do in racing as well, as you see a little bit of right front lockup as well. Sometimes I'll make an aggressive dash to the left to kind of get the guy looking in the rearview mirror. I may have no intention of actually making that move down to the inside, but just a movement in the rearview mirror can get that guy out front just a little bit paranoid. And that's all you need sometimes. If you kind of get them to think that you're just a little crazy, sometimes they'll just either miss their mark or they might move out of the way. It's actually kind of fun sometimes. Some people don't like it, but
You saw some good rotor glow on that on the 30's attempt to try to get by the 40 into 1. He was pretty hard on those brakes.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, just 6 laps to go, 5 laps to go now as Jordan Wenzel continues to make his way around this track.
I can't say enough about the consistency as well from that number 81 machine. Talking about some of the lap times, a lot of them down in the lower half of the sub 112 second lap time. So we talked about how difficult it is to hit lap times within the 12-second bracket. And this driver has been able to hit them consistently, lap after lap, minus a couple incidences getting around lap traffic and something.
You can see the gap right now between himself and the other competitors. He's basically just running his race. So let's jump back real quick. It's gotten really hairy right now. The 40 and the 30 are just working their way through a lot of lap traffic that is not making it easy for them to get around. In fact, it has impaired that 30 and possibly cost him some spots.
Yeah, and it really is kind of tough because I've been on both ends of that. Trying to be a lap down and trying to stay out of the way versus also trying to race for a competition to being up at the front and trying to make your way around lap traffic. Sometimes as a lap car, it just depends on when you get caught. That bus stop where we saw they got caught up before, that is, sometimes it just lines up just perfectly where it's almost impossible to try to get out of the way there.
All right, this race is rapidly coming to a conclusion here. This is the closest battle on the track between Braden Hayes and Alex Murphy.
Yeah, this is also one of those points where you get down to the end of the race, you're trying to push your limits just a little bit to try to advance that one position. But this is also where some of your mistakes can kind of start to loom in a little bit. You kind of start losing focus on the big picture here. You're trying to get that driver in front. You're trying to get just a little bit more off the corner. Like this wall right here can very easily catch you off guard and you can be in it. So trying to stay disciplined, trying to hit your marks consistently and not try to overdrive one, not trying to just push it just a little bit more. We're so close at the end of this race, and it doesn't take but a second of lapse in judgment, lapse of concentration, and a mistake can happen very easily.
Right now this race is Jordan Wenzel's to lose. He's got a significant gap over Jordan Booth in second place. Brendan Hayes is doing everything he can to keep the 30 of Alex Murphy from taking away his third place finish.
Yeah, I think once again we kind of see the lap times with the 81. One lap you'll see Jordan Booth quicker. The next lap you'll see Jordan, two Jordans up front. Jordan Wenzel will put in a lap quicker. I think he's just kind of looking again, trying to match that lap time of the driver behind, only driving just hard enough that you need to try to gain that lap time or maintain that lap time. He might be content sitting behind this lap car for a little bit, making sure that everything's out and clear. Doesn't have to worry about passing him. He's got a little bit of time in the bank, only a few laps to go. He may just sit behind that lap car of 28.
Yep, that's the
for the rest of this race.
28 of Joe Musso, who happens to be the last car on the lead lap. Joe's last time by was minute 14:85, so yeah, he may not stick behind there too long.
See if he lets him have it here. And he does. Good work. Could have made it very difficult for him going into the bus stop, for sure.
Yeah,
because that was one of those times we talked about where you just do not want to encounter lap traffic. Oh, things are getting a little bit hotter for fourth position here.
Yeah, Brendan Hayes, I think I got an alert that he had gone off track a little bit. So that may have impacted him, allowed the 32 possibly catch up a little bit. Now with just 2 laps to go here at Go Bowling at the Glen. Super close. White flag is out. Final lap. This is do or die here for the 30 of Alex Murphy, trying to get around him. You can see those brake rotors glowing as he does everything he can to take as much speed into that corner as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I was trying to see where the two of those drivers were stacking up as far as their points go. If they were as close as they were, it looks like one of them was in about 9th in points and the other one was back in the 15th or so. So
they both need the points, that's for certain.
Yeah, for sure. Alex is in 9th currently in the points, and then the 40 Brendan Hayes in 16th. So every little bit matters.
Yep.
Final
absolutely.
lap.
And checker flies. That means Jordan Wenzel has crossed the finish line and wins the Go Bowling at the Glen race number 2 here at Watkins Glen. Now stay tuned. We'll get the top 3 finishers in the booth once they're done with their cool down lap, which takes a little bit of time here on Watkins Glen. We'll get the race results once everybody crosses that start-finish line. Well, that was just a phenomenal race driven by Jordan Wenzel. Jordan Booth did everything he could to get up and to match, but it just wasn't enough.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just like that, and a lot of times on a road course, just some drivers they have the ability to just separate themselves from the whole rest of the class.
Jordan Booth will finish in second. Brendan Hayes will finish in third. Jordan Booth, you may not know this, but Jordan Booth, they've actually established a driving academy that they have a number of drivers have taken advantage of, and he has done a great job in helping some of these drivers improve their racecraft, and they're being very successful at it.
That's one of the things that's always kind of nice to watch on iRacing, not only trying to better yourself, but trying to better those around you as well.
All right, there's your podium. The 81 of Jordan Wenzel takes the win, with the 41 of Jordan Booth and Brendan Hayes second and third. All right, looks like the results are in. Let's get the results for today's race. All right, there you have it. Jordan Wenzel is your winner, followed by Jordan Booth in second, Brendan Hayes in third. Alex Murphy finishes in fourth. Simon Madgen in fifth. Great showing by Rumble Racing. Vernon Broadbeck is in sixth. Matthew Robinson in seventh. Garrett Walden in eighth. Michael Whitley Jr. finishes in ninth. And Ty Bostic finishes in 10th.
Eric Jeffers finishes on the back end of the top 10, just outside. 12th, Martin Pinnell. Alex Forget Berube finishes in 13th. Nick Alves, 14th. Back in the top 15, you find Jacob Musso. 16th, Martin Giroux. 17th, Tony Japs. Finishing in 18th is Joe Musso. 19th, Ron Fitting. 20th, Austin Walton.
All right, and in 21st, Tyler Lem. Scott Thomas finishes in 22nd. Matthew Persini finishes in 23rd. Dan Hughes in 24th. Corey Bunch, with that unfortunate incident, finishes in 25th. Eddie Musso Jr. in 26th. And Corey Ennis in 27th. All right, we have a full group of guys in the press box. Let's go ahead and bring in our third place finisher, Mr. Brendan Hayes. And Brendan, congratulations, man. You had we were watching you for the good bit of the last 15 laps as you were battling with Alex Murphy.
Yeah, that was it was a battle that I expected was going to happen at the end of this thing. Before we pitted, he was closing up on us, so it was good hard racing, a little bit of contact in the end, but it all worked out. We both survived, and luckily I was able to hold him off. I was locked in for those last 15 or so laps.
Yeah, we were kind of figuring you were doing a little bit of mirror driving there for a bit there, because you were, running your line and running it well, but you had him on your tail.
Yeah, he just seemed to be able to get into the corners a little bit deeper than me, and I just didn't have any real turn, especially in turn one. So going to those corners where I knew that he would have the advantage with the braking zone, I would just kind of, I guess, move under braking. One nice thing you can do in NASCAR, can't do in other sports, but kind of cover him off. And there was a few times where he kind of faked it, made it look like he was going to make it, but he didn't. So yeah, it was good racing between us.
All right, congratulations on your third place finish. Any shout outs tonight?
Well, yep. Shout out to my teammate Jordan. He was him and I kind of worked on a strategy and kind of worked together a little bit. And also shout out to my mom, who just is recovering from breast cancer surgery. She's doing great. So shout out to her, and shout out to you guys for putting on a good production.
Thank you so much, and our prayers are with your mom. All right, let's bring in Mr. Jordan Booth to the broadcast here.
The seven.
Jordan, congratulations on your second place finish, man. That was close.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure anybody had much for Jordan Wenzel tonight, but you certainly gave it your all.
Yeah, I gave it a little too much. I gave it about 110% there on lap one into the bus stop. But I was like, if I could get in front of him, I thought I could keep him at least behind me because we race each other pretty cleanly. So I was like, he won't move me. I can just sit in front of him. But that didn't quite work out.
Well, you battled back though after that early incident, and finishing in second place, that was just tremendous.
Yeah, thank you. It was kind of sketchy working up through some of those people, but yeah, just did just good enough to get second.
Well, it's we were talking earlier about turning left. Yeah, that works fine for some folks, but when you throw in some turning rights in there, that's a whole lot. That's a different story. So, you know, you did great. So congratulations on your second place finish, and on to Bristol, right?
Yeah, I think with this, good stage points in this finish, I think I've advanced on points, so I can kind of go into Bristol carefree and see what happens.
That would be great. All right, any shout outs tonight, Jordan?
Yeah, got to give one to my dad. He was watching, and then a whole bunch of people in Vinton County. So I'll just give a broad shout out to Vinton County. Brendan, he had a great race. He needed this points wise to try and get back into the playoff picture. This should help him a ton. And then Mike for giving me some fire schemes every single week. If you need something, reach out to him or look up Mosh Customs on Facebook. They're every week it's something good. And then you guys for putting on the show, and Josh for letting us go out and race every Thursday.
Got it. All right, there's your second place finish tonight, Mr. Jordan Booth. All right, and we welcome in your winner, Jordan Wenzel. Jordan, congratulations on your win, man. You really held it together. Just some phenomenal racing out there.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we were second guessing. I don't know, and Ryan chirp in. Just the pit strategy. Just trying to figure out when people were going, and you certainly on that last. It seemed to us that you held out to the last possible lap.
I actually had about, I think, 5 laps more that I could do on fuel, but I knew that when I got up behind some lap cars that were battling, that there was no point to try to get around them, so I put fuel in it so that I would minimize my time loss on track. Just trying to not let everybody else catch up. I don't know how Booth was setting a lot more faster laps, but there's also laps there he'd lose like half a second, so it was just staying consistent and just doing it that way.
Well, that Ryan, that goes to you because you pretty much said as soon as Jordan hit those lap cars, he was going to duck onto pit road.
Yeah, absolutely. We're kind of looking at the lap times kind of coming in, and as laps are going down, we're like, okay, a lot of these guys that are in the back and in traffic, they're going to see that they're probably going to pit early. As soon as they can make it on fuel, they're going to pit, try to get away from that lap traffic. But the guys up front, if they have clean air, they're going to stay out in that clean air, that clean traffic out in front for as long as they can until they encounter that lap traffic. Then they go in, and that's exactly what we saw at the 81. So that was kind of neat to see as a guy up top. But excellent job out there. The consistency that you had, we saw that from the guys out back with Jordan Booth, and he'd hit a lap faster, then you come back and you top him just a little bit. So we were kind of seeing, it looked like you were kind of moderating that gap to that, the guy out back, just running just hard enough that you needed to try to maintain your gap.
With the next gen here, the tires just seem to not have, or they get better with their wear. It felt like they just kind of equalized today. It didn't feel like they got better. It didn't feel like they got slightly better, but it just felt like it equalized, and putting on new fresh tires would have just been terrible. I would have lost a lot more time. And it's just this kind of racing with this car. Every lap you're out there pushing, and you gotta try to at least put good laps down.
Yeah, we were curious real quick, Jordan, how many practice laps did you put in for tonight, man?
Not as many as you would think. The thing I practiced the most for this year was Coda, actually, and I think I put in like double or triple the amount of laps at that track. And here it was just Watkins Glen is just so much closer. There's not as many technical turns, so you're just like the bus stop is your biggest thing that you have to nail correctly, and you'll be with that in turn one, and people won't be able to catch you if you're able to do those well.
All right.
Agreed.
Well, congratulations again. We'll see you next week at Bristol, where you've already punched your ticket into the next round of the playoffs. How do you feel about Bristol?
I feel good about Bristol. I'm normally fast there, so I'm really good at tracks where I have to use my left foot. But a lot of these big 1.5 miles I'm not too good at, so I'm hoping to use some of these playoff points to advance myself through.
Okay. Shout outs tonight, Jordan?
Well, I got to shout out a couple of people. I'd have to say Team Jasser, the endurance team, not the NASCAR team here. They've taught me a lot about road racing in general and getting better at it. Peter Peruz, not even going to try. Peter P is what we called him in a different league, and he was always very good at road racing. And then just my friends that I just was racing with last night. Just a bunch of fun doing these road course races. I wish I would have won at Coda in the Xfinity Series. I'd be flawless on these road courses.
Well, practice makes perfect for sure.
Yeah.
All right, there's your winner, Mr. Jordan Wenzel, winning here at the Go Bowling at the Glen at Watkins Glen, punching his ticket now into the second round of the iNRS playoffs. Congratulations to Jordan. Any wrap up for tonight?
Well, I think what we saw tonight was just about your I want to say typical, Watkins Glen. We saw some drivers up front just trying to take it easy, try to make it to the end, try to play some strategy as well. We saw a little bit of interesting strategy with Whitley
Yep.
there at the beginning to try to see if he could flip the strategy. That didn't exactly try to play out, maybe like we thought, but of course, like we usually see, you see the drivers that put in the time and make it up to the front. Those consistent lap times pay off.
Absolutely. All right, there you have it. We thank you for tuning in to the IWM broadcast of the iNRS Racing Series. Tune in next Thursday night. We will be at Bristol for 250 laps, and that will be the last race of the first round, and then we'll move out to the round of 12. For Ryan and myself, we thank you for tuning in, and hope to see you next week. Thank you, folks. Good night.